What's going on, everyone? Mr. Octagonal here. Now, today we have the first rebuild of MLB The Show 19. We're going to be rebuilding the Baltimore Orioles. They were the worst team in baseball last year. They have one of the worst rosters, and I think this should be a ton of fun. I am doing this in post-com, not live-com, because there was game audio, and I forgot to turn it off. In the future, the rebuilds will be live-coms. However, this one will be a post-com, which means I get to talk for 23 minutes straight. That'll be fun. I'm going to be out of breath at the end of this. I didn't know if this was going to go successful because I tried to do an MLB rebuild last year and it did not work out. However, I had a lot of fun with it, and I definitely want to make this a series. So make sure to let me know who you want to see rebuilt next. So here's a look at the team. Not great. Jonathan Villar, I don't know why the Brewers traded him to the Orioles last year, because the Brewers were good, the Orioles weren't, and Jonathan Villar is a good player. So that's a little bit weird, but outside of that, there's not a lot of talent on this roster. I would say probably not the worst. I think the Marlins have a worse roster, but it's not great. And here's a look at some of the best prospects. DJ Stewart, didn't know what to expect from him as a 25-year-old. This team has a solid, I would say probably a little bit above average farm system, but nothing too special, not like Toronto's. I don't know if Toronto's the best, but they have some of the top prospects like Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Lourdes Gurriel. So, overall, we have a decent amount of A potential prospects. However, I don't know if any of these guys will become superstars, which is why we need to make trades. It's a fantasy rebuild, so anything goes. I might do realistic later in the year. I'm not entirely sure, but when I do rebuilds, I like to do fantasy. When I do franchises like the Diamondback series, I like to do realistic, and obviously that series will be realistic. So the first trade we have here is we're going to get Miguel Andujar from the Yankees. He had a really good rookie year last year. I think he should have A potential. I think that B and a 79 is pretty harsh to him. We're giving up 3 players, including Jonathan Villar, and 2 solid relief pitchers. So we're giving up 3 good players. However, I don't think they're great, and if we really want Villar later, he probably won't have too much value. And then we need to get ourselves some good pitching prospects. And why not get a channel legend from the Detroit Tigers? My man, Franklin Perez, he was a beast in that series. Rio Ruiz and Grayson Allen both have A potential. However, they're both like 59 overalls, so neither of them are probably going to make the majors. And then another channel legend from that series, Bobby Bradley from the Cleveland Indians, is going to be brought in, where all we have to send away is Joey Ricard, a 27-year-old, 71 overall outfielder. I will gladly do that trade any day of the week. Now we're going to be getting Rhys Hoskins from the Phillies, sending an A potential pitcher, and Hunter Harvey, as well as Michael Givens, who's a good closer. This was definitely a win for us. As you can see later in the video, Rhys Hoskins absolutely dominated this rebuild, and someone who we could look to trade for in future rebuilds as well. We're also giving away Richie Martin. He's just a throw-in, whoop-de-doo player. But the Phillies are getting a good pitching prospect and good reliever. But obviously Hoskins is one of their best players. And then John Duplantier, another A potential pitcher, this time from the Diamondbacks. You will hear that name a lot in the Diamondbacks series. He's their #1 prospect. We're sending 3 B potential players, including Trey Mancini. None of them will become superstars, so that's a good trade for us. And then we're also going to be getting Taylor Trammell, an outfield prospect from the Reds, sending 3 more B potential prospects. That's a lot of talented prospects we're giving up. However, I think Trammell can be better than all of them. And it's a risk, but I'm a risk taker. I'm willing to do it. So welcome to the team, Mr. Trammell. And then we're going to be getting Joey Bart from the Giants. He was the #2 overall pick in this year's draft behind Casey Mize of the Tigers. We're going to be sending Dylan Bundy, who's a decent player, as well as Paul Fry, and pretty much a throw-in player in Luis Ortiz. I think this is a good trade for us because Bart has a lot of potential, and that also makes Chance Sisco expendable, so maybe we look to flip him. Here's a look at the team. Outside of Hoskins and Andujar, the lineup is not great. I guess maybe DJ Stewart as well. Rotation, not much better. We did sign Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell. I can't trade them now because of teams' injury situations, which you'll find that out later in the video. But I wanted to cheese because I didn't think it'd be as easy as it was, so next time I won't sign those 2. But I figured for this one, why not? So we're at the MLB draft. The Orioles do have the #1 overall pick. And of these guys, the most intriguing was Alan Arturo. We sort of needed a shortstop. Highest potential, blue chip prospect, only a 2021 MLB ETA, which is much better than some of the other players. So I figured that would be a good selection. As you can see with his skills, he is better than average in everything except for speed, and he is pretty fast, 75 out of 80 speed, so welcome to the squad, Alan Arturo. And he ended up being quite a good prospect, 94 potential, 67 overall. I scrolled through all the teams. There was only a few other better prospects, so I guess we theoretically could have made a better pick, but I'm not too mad with that. In round 2, I drafted Dave Moses, who's a Met player. There's a decent closer. We got Johnny Ingebrigtsen. That's a fun name to say. The only 2 I drafted were Arturo and Moses. The other ones were simulated picks, and they got one good player for me. And then a pretty big trade right here. Craig Kimbrell as well as Cedric Mullins, an 8 potential prospect, and Jeffrey Ramirez to the White Sox for Eloy Jimenez. He is someone who's going to develop into a superstar in real life, and hopefully he will in this rebuild. I mean, I know if he does, but I guess hopefully he will. And then a 2-for-1 in this one is Dallas Keuchel as well as Ryan Mountcastle, who fell to a B potential, and Landon Gonzalez, who I also signed in free agency, for Rafael Devers from the Red Sox, only 22 years old. Very high upside third baseman. I'm surprised they only gave him a 73. And then the other player we're getting is Darwinzon Hernandez, 22 years old, 76 overall, B potential, left-handed starter. That sounds good to me. So we basically got 2 players for Ryan Mountcastle, basically. And then I got offered this deal from the Rangers. I figured I'd do it. Tommy Thomason for Pedro Gonzalez. Gonzalez didn't really turn into anything for us. I don't really know why I kept this in the video, but okay. Welcome to the team, I guess, Pedro. As you can see, our record is not pretty, 27-60. As, look at that. The Indians have 2 players named Jeffrey Gonzalez, and we ended up finishing 57-105, which is not pretty. We'll get the number 1 overall pick again next year. And then the Nationals beat the Red Sox in the World Series. I don't know why the Nationals have so much hype. They lost Bryce Harper and they signed, Patrick Corbin. Everyone's like, oh, they have Juan Soto. But they had Juan Soto last year, too. Juan Soto was good last year. You're like, oh, he's going to be good this year. He was good last year. So, I don't think the Nationals are going to be as good as everyone advertises. And same with the Mets. I think that division is a 2-team race between the Braves and the Phillies. I like the Braves, personally. I think Acuna is going to ball out, but yeah. So, I forgot to check stats earlier. I guess I only showed Eloy Jimenez. He had an okay season, 13 home runs, 49 RBIs. And there's a look at the playoff bracket. The Padres made the wild card. So did the Angels. I would say that's the only real surprise. No Dodgers or Astros. I don't think I saw the Astros there. So looking at free agency, very solid class. I went after a number of these players. Anthony Rendon, Goldschmidt, Bogarts, Bumgarner. I wanted to get a lot of these guys, whether to trade them or keep them as building blocks. And this is quite a deep free agency class. So there are a number of good players we could sign, but the first one was Madison Bumgarner on a 5-year contract worth $14.6 a year, and of those free agents, the one I wanted the least was Bumgarner, so I figured might as well trade him, right? Want to get something cheap out of him, so I got Christian Stewart and Friesier Perez from the Tigers. Yeah, that's not great value for Madison Bumgarner, but we're basically getting these 2 for 3, and one of them has 8 potential, so I figured it made sense. So Christian Stewart, who we sort of saw in the Tiger series for a couple years, didn't have a big role, but he was a starter for a little bit. You may recognize his name out in left field, and he has 8 potential now, so I guess he had a good year last year in real life. And then we signed Anthony Rendon. If you look at his stats, the man hit .344, 33 dingers, 119 RBIs. He went off last year for the Nationals, and I kind of want to keep him because that is quite a good stat line. He probably won MVP, if not, was awfully close. And that's going to be hard to replicate. And then we also signed Xander Bogaerts. I don't know if it says it up there. It does. For a 1-year contract. And I was like, out of those 2, I only want to keep one. Oh, I might as well keep Rendon after seeing that stat line. But what I didn't know is Bogaerts hit .372. Now, I would say Rendon had a little bit better of his season, but Bogaerts went off as well. So both of them had great seasons, so it was sort of hard to choose. But then this happened. The game is a glitch. Xander Bogaerts, Dave Moses, and Christian Stewart get me Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and Will Scatholm. I'm not usering the Lakers. I promise I'm not cheating. The game is glitched, and I wanted to cheese early on. They were super interested in Dave Moses for whatever reason. And that Scatholm guy, I assume you don't know him, he has 8 potential, and obviously, Trout and Ohtani. So, for comparison, I put in our first-round pick, Arturo, who has 8 potential, for Moses, who has C potential, and you will be shocked to see how much the Angels want Dave Moses for whatever reason, that so much that they would take Bogarts, him, and Christian Stewart for Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and a first baseman who has superstar potential. That is absurd, MLB The Show. You need to fix your trade logic. The trade logic has been messed up for years. And as you can see, they're not that interested in Arturo for whatever reason. But I add in Moses. Look at that. That's crazy. They had Mike Trout. They have Joe Adell, who has a potential. I don't get it. I don't get it, game. You need to fix your trade system. It's been bad for a while. And there is Paul Goldschmidt, who also signs with us. He had 348. What are these absurd batting averages? These guys are crazy. Why are their teams not trying to bring them back? The Cardinals did just sign Goldschmidt to a 5-year extension in real life to a very similar contract. And I don't want two big contracts, so I'm sending Goldschmidt to Texas for Rougned Odor and Cole Winn. Really good pitching prospect. And then Odor, solid second baseman, good power, needs to work on his contact, and he has a good beard, and he can throw some punches, so I guess that's cool. Value-wise, some people would question it, but we need to clear up cap space. So, as you can see, our injury situation is forcing us to hold off from making a deal when you offer a potential third baseman for a 48-year-old, 29-year-old relief pitcher. That has been an issue in this game for years, and I guess it hasn't changed this year. Usually it happens in the offseason and the beginning of the season, so this has been an issue at least since 17, maybe even 16 to show. They've never fixed it. I don't know why. But here's a look at the lineup. Much improved from last year, adding guys like Odor and Rendon. And then the rotation is also a little bit better with the addition of Ohtani, and Hernandez is developing very well too. As you can see, the bullpen is very bad, though there's no player higher than like a 65. So the bullpen would be a priority. I wanted to trade for relievers, but obviously I couldn't because teams' injury situations were forcing them to not make a deal. So since we have the worst record, we had the number 1 pick again, and I wanted to make a risk with this pick. There were a few intriguing players that I could go with, Stanley Perry being one of them, but I don't believe I ended up going with him. Or maybe I did. Yeah, I think I did go with him. So I could have gone with one of the blue chips who was older and would be in the majors later, but instead I went with Perry, who didn't scout as much. And I regret it. He only has 81 potential, 60 overall. Not a bad prospect, but definitely not someone who's worthy of the number 1 pick. So we obviously didn't make the playoffs. The Indians get revenge on the Cubs. We do win 77 games, which is improvement from the past couple of seasons, so I guess there's that. We do have a better roster. I don't know if it's 26 wins better. But Mike Trout, he is a free agent. We obviously want to bring him back. There's also Mookie Betts, Jacob deGrom. This free agency class is even better than the last one, which is hard to believe. And then the free agency class after this one was probably better than both of these, which is incredible. So we need help in the rotation, and Jacob deGrom is very intriguing. But first, we are making a deal. No, we're not, because MLB is cheesing. Rougned Odor, as you can see, for Harvey Gehriger. Obviously, I wouldn't do this trade, but apparently if the Red Sox wouldn't either, I don't know why they view that guy as so valuable. So we do sign Jacob deGrom, one of the best pitchers in baseball. He got an extension in real life. Very happy we picked him up. A lot of money, though. Are we going to afford Mike Trout? We need to bring him back, don't we? Well, we want to clear up some cap space, so we're trading Anthony Rendon and Lamar Sparks for Jose Ramirez. Sparks is an okay prospect, but he's pretty much a nobody in this deal. So we're basically swapping Ramirez for Rendon. Ramirez is a little bit better, a little bit younger, but he's much cheaper, which is why I did this. And he's sort of an upgrade, too, so I figured it was a good deal for us. So, welcome to the Baltimore Orioles, Jose Ramirez. It was fun while it lasted, Rendon. We're making a trade with the Rays. I forget what it said because I barely had time to look, but whatever, it is what it is. And as you can see, Mike Trout, we don't have enough for him. He ends up signing with the Angels, so he must have loved the Angels so much that even after being traded from them for Dave Moses, he wants to go back. So I guess because it's the Angels, because he's loyal, good for him. I can't get too mad. But we do sign James Paxton, I guess his compensation. We overpaid him, but we're desperate, and Paxton ended up being really good for us, so I guess that was a good signing. So we need a replacement for Mike Trout, so we're going to get Aaron Hicks from the Yankees, trading an 8 potential outfielder, Oscar Montoya. who's not going to be in the majors at the end of a rebuild, so I figured this trade would make sense. Aaron Hicks, very good on defense, solid contact hitter as well. And then Christian Arroyo, we got him in the Rule 5 draft last year, and so we're going to send him to St. Louis for Andrew Miller. Need bullpen help. He's one of the best relievers in baseball, as well as Matt Carpenter. We got him for trade bait, and we would send him as well as shortstop and Gelb Valema for Jose Leclerc. So basically, we got Leclerc and Miller for 3, essentially. So I would say that's pretty nice, getting 2 very talented relievers, especially when our bullpen is as bad as it is. So here's a look at the team. Definitely better. Maybe the lineup isn't really better since we lost Trout. But the pitching rotation is definitely better. We added DeGrom, Paxton, Leclerc, Miller. The rotation is a lot better. It's not a liability anymore. The bullpen is not a liability. Yeah, there's still some question marks with the middle relievers. But other than that, we got 2 really good setup men and a good closer, as we did sign David Robertson. So that's 3 really good relievers we have. And we ended up going 89-73. I predicted we win 88 games, so I guess 1 off. So that would put us as the wild card. I believe we played the Oakland A's. Looking at the stats, Jose Ramirez struggled. I know he was on the injured list for a little bit, so that's why. Rhys Hoskins, 41 home runs. That might have been the lowest of the rebuild. He had 42 the first year, 45 last year, now 41 this year. He's been incredible. Miguel Andujar, he's been consistent throughout the rebuild. DJ Stewart, I've been very impressed with his production. I didn't know he'd do as good as he has been. Odor hit a lot of home runs during the rebuild, but the batting average wasn't great. And then the rest of the guys, whoop-de-doo, I guess. Not much excitement. Jacob DeGrom, 2 ERA, he went off. Shohei struggled, 6.03. He was very disappointed in this rebuild. But Paxton did good, but Hernandez and Duplantier did not do good. Neither did Franklin Perez. A lot of the middle relievers struggled. So did Leclerc. David Robinson was okay. Andrew Miller was obviously very good. So we ended up going 89-43, and we would play the Oakland A's in the wild card round, and we would indeed get the win. We'd play the Indians, and we would absolutely... I was about to say kill them. I didn't know the score was as close as it was, 15-11. Lots of points, but then we lost the last 3 games, and the Indians ended up winning the World Series, their 2nd in a row, beating the St. Louis Cardinals. So here's a look at the free agency class. So much talent. Kenley Jansen, Corey Seager, Francisco Lindor, Chris Bryant. There are so many players in here. We only had enough for 1. I offered like 5 max contracts, and the game chose Francisco Lindor. I guess if I had to choose, I probably would choose Lindor value-wise. So I guess thanks, MLB This Show. And we need some bullpen help, and we'd end up trading Aaron Hicks because he's making a decent bit of money. And for budget reasons, he was the only valuable asset we could trade. So we're trading him as well as 2 other prospects for Blake Treinen and Ryan Butcher. Treinen is a very good relief pitcher, and Butcher's a solid one. So we basically got 2 bullpen pitchers for Aaron Hicks. Yeah, it sucks to lose our center fielder, who's quite a good player. However, for 2 relievers, which is such a desperate need, and we have some good players in the outfield. We have Trammell, we have Eloy Jimenez, we have the other guy, Stewart. So then Francisco Lindor, I put him on the trade finder just out of curiosity, and we need help in the rotation, so I got an offer for Clayton Kershaw, and I figured I'd do it because we have Arturo at shortstop. However, John Duplantier was a liability last year, so I figured why not go ahead and get Clayton Kershaw. So him and DeGrom as a 1-2 monster in the rotation is scary. Here's a look at the lineup. Very, very talented team. I believe we did lose Eloy Jimenez this year. He signed with the Royals because we were dead broke. I don't know why it let him go, but I guess we didn't need him that bad. And then the pitching rotation, we got the 1-2 monster, as well as 3 other solid pitchers. Darwinzion Hernandez for 5 spot as an 87. I've been very impressed with his production. Perez and Duplantier will each be long relievers. The bullpen looks a lot better. This team should win the World Series, and I would say it's a disappointment if they don't. Obviously, I know what happens, but I think this team's worthy. So, Cardinals fans, he got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I tried to trade for him. Obviously, it didn't work, and it looks like he's having a pretty bad season, but obviously, Cardinals fans would jump up for joy. We ended up winning 103 games, which is very solid. with a 63% winning percentage, which in baseball is very, very good. So we played the Indians in the divisional round, hoping to get our revenge. But first, we're going to look at stats. Jose Ramirez played pretty well, or at least he played better. Will Scatholm, the other guy from the Angels trade, did good. But look at Rhys Hoskins. This man is insane. 53 dingers. And his batting average has been consistent in the 260s, 270s, 280s for the whole rebuild. He has been a monster. Probably close to a combined 200 home runs in these 4 seasons, which is crazy. And then, I don't know what I was doing here. Oh, I was looking for Alan Arturo. I didn't know why he was in the minors. I guess he was struggling in the majors. I'm not sure who was at shortstop. Maybe Rafael Devers or something. But looking at the starters, Shohei had another really bad season. 7.14 ERA. Yuck. DeGrom and Kershaw was solid. Hernandez was bad. And Josh James was in the rotation. Turns out Paxton was injured with a broken hand. So that's why. And it doesn't look like he'd probably be able to return from a playoff series out 27 days. And the playoffs is pretty much the rest of the month, so maybe he could return late in the World Series if we ended up making it. So, Simeon against Cleveland, we do win that series, and we're going to be taking on the Oakland A's. And unfortunately, we lost, I believe, in 7 games, and then the Rockies beat the A's in the World Series. So Chris Davis retired. I remember trading him away because he was so expensive. I think that's the trade with the Rays that I didn't see. I don't know how Chris Davis ended back up here, but good for him. I guess he goes back where he wins an MVP. So here's the lineup for the 5th and final season. We're not doing anymore. This is it. World Series or bust is the mentality. The team really did not change at all, I guess, other than progression and then maybe a little bit of degression. I don't know if anyone regressed. I changed up the rotation order a little bit. I didn't want 3 lefties in a row, so I put Kershaw between DeGrom and Ohtani. But other than that, the bullpen looks good, the rotation looks good, the lineup looks good. And we got off to a really slow start. I believe we were probably a game under 500 at the All-Star break, but we had a really bad month of April. However, we did end up winning 91 games. It looked like we had a playing game for the wild card, and we ended up losing to the Rays only by 1 run. So unfortunately, we do not want to reign in this rebuild, but I still had a lot of fun making it. We still built a really, really good team, and I'm very excited to do more MLB rebuilds in the future. I plan on bringing back Madden and 2K rebuilds as well. So let me know who you guys want me to rebuild next. I will have a straw poll of all the other 29 teams. And yeah, that's it for this video. Hope you guys have a good day and a good rest of your week. Diamondbacks episode 2 should also be up tomorrow.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Laughing plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Imagination, life is your creation.
Yo, hey, man!